Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today we are doing my quasi mid-year check-in to my inventory. It's actually the first time I've ever done one of these on my channel, and I was just curious where we're sitting right now, and it's maybe not good. I'm just saying. And as I was going through things, I also did kind of a miscellaneous declutter. So you'll see that video coming up. So if walking through my inventory, seeing the pictures of all my products is something that interests you, please keep on watching because that is what we're doing today. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I am a lover of all things colorful, beauty, and this is my self-care. This is how I take care of that itch that I have for all things colorful beauty. I work at Ulta Beauty as a field leader. I get a lot of education. I also get a lot of products through Gratis. And I just really like to bring you that education here, share with you my thoughts and opinions, but ultimately it's just because I like talking about makeup and beauty. And if you're here, you probably also like to talk about makeup and beauty. So I'm hoping that you find that this channel brings solace to your soul in the way it brings solace to mine, and that you'll want to subscribe before you go. But truly, I'm so excited to talk to you about my makeup inventory today. So let's just jump in to my mid-year-ish makeup inventory. So I feel some sort of way about this because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think I've purchased very much. But my inventory has grown. I feel like it's grown a lot, actually. Maybe it hasn't. I've got one set of numbers that looks right and one set that doesn't. And I don't have full force where we're at in terms of how it's depleted category to category, yes. But overall, I didn't compile all that, but I will have that number for you at the end. This is like the 5th time that I've filmed this, and I don't know why I'm chatting so much about this, but it's been a hot mess to get through. So that said, I'm going to have a breakdown of my products decluttered versus emptied. And I'm also going to have a breakdown of where we sat at the beginning of the year versus where we're at the mid-year, showcased for you in pictures. And also, I also did take pictures of every single category as it's listed on here for this video, except for when it comes to like face. I have all my blushes in one picture, all my bronzers and contours in one picture, but my face palettes, whether they be blush palettes, highlight palettes, or all over face palettes, are all like crammed into one picture. So that is whatever. Let's just start because I'm giving myself so much anxiety and I don't really need to. I ultimately am really happy where this landed because I haven't purchased very much, but I also have received quite a bit in Gratis. Palettes is always going to be a thing for me. Like, I'm always going to purchase a lot of palettes, and there's a lot of palette purchases, but ultimately every other category in my collection has not grown. If it's grown, it's not like ultimately grown a whole lot in the grand scheme of, yes, I'm making purchases, but I'm also getting Gratis. I've been tracking my, inventory since 2020, which really in and of itself ended up being becoming inventory for 2021. In 2021, I had 63 bullet lipsticks, and last year I had 72, and currently I have 72. So this has not grown or depleted at all. That's not to say things have not come in and gone out. It's just to say that's where we're at. For liners, when I first started tracking, I had 59. Last year, I had 41. Right now, mid-inventory, I have 37. I am okay with that as well. For balms, treatments, scrubs, primers, this is how it is in my inventory category. I had 39 when I started, my makeup inventory in 2021. Last year I had 35. This year I have 43. So this has grown by 8. A good majority of those came in Gratis, though I do not typically purchase those kind of things. Every single one of the new ones is from gratis, not from me purchasing it. Liquid lipsticks. I had 32 when I started tracking in 2021. Last year, I had 18. My mid-year inventory, I have 20. I am okay with this number. I think the 2 that I have extra were gratis to me this year. So I got an ABH lip velvet in gratis, and I got a Benefit plush tint matte lip tint in gratis as well. And those are the 2 new ones to me this year. For lip palettes, I had 1 and I have 0 currently. Now, this is a picture of the lip palette, but the picture of the lip palette is there specifically for significance. This is actually something that ended up being part of my miscellaneous declutter, because this palette I am keeping in my collection, but it's not going to be in my makeup collection anymore, because I only use it for like face painting during holiday time frames or like Halloween, whatever the case may be. So it is coming out of my makeup collection and going into a very different aspect of my life. For glosses or oils, this has always been a problem area for me. One of my largest categories always. I had 92 when I started tracking in 2021. Last year, I started the year with 81. And this mid-year checkup, I have 78. I have done really, really good progress with making sure that I always have a gloss in like my project pan or my decapanning or in my purse or something, so that I am always putting a gloss on, because if I'm going to purchase glosses the way I purchase glosses, I also need to be using them after I purchase them, and that hasn't always been the case. For lip crayon or stain, I had 23 in 2021, 19 in my makeup inventory last year, and 14 currently, which I am super excited about. Some of them, I think all of them actually, were decluttered, but like just making real hard decisions for myself on what it is that I think I need to keep and what I don't need to keep is real important to this makeup inventory getting used in the way it is. I do have 264 products in my mid-year inventory, whereas at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I had 267. So my lip product category has went down overall by 3. But when I first started tracking this in 2020, in my 2021 inventory, I had 307 lip products. Now, just to put that into perspective for you, not all of these lip products are the same lip products that I housed in my collection when I had 307 lip products in here, but I have either used or decluttered over 40 items, and I think a perfect number for me for lip products is somewhere around that 240. So I'm not far from my goal of 240. The reason why I say that is because I'm gonna always love gloss. I'm gonna always buy gloss, and I love lip liners as well. So I will wear a lip liner with a lip gloss over the top of it. Most days, typically, that is all I am wearing. So I'm gonna want the lip liners and the glosses. My liquid lipstick collection would likely be 0 if it wasn't for gratis or, you know, the occasional bundles that I'm buying from makeup brands as I'm trying to utilize them or find new brands to me. I can see that one dwindling down to none. The lip palette is no longer in here. Like, I also have a ton of balms, treatments, and scrubs always in my collection because I use lip balm quite significantly. I think in my makeup rehab, you'll see over the last 30 days, I've used 2 of them to completion. Now, that wasn't from brand new to complete in 1 month's time, but I use balm all the time. My daughter uses balm all the time. So I think that there are 3 aspects of this portion of my collection that will always be large. I think 240 is a reasonable number for lip products, and I know that that might seem outlandish to a lot of people, but that's where I'm at right now, and I'm happy to say that this has went down by 3. With that said, 2 of my 7 subcategories for lip products went up, whereas the rest of them went down, except for the bullet lipstick category, which didn't grow or decrease. I'm really happy with that. And the increases were from gratis. They weren't because I purchased any. That I'm also happy about, because I do believe lip products lands on my do not buy list, or one in, one out kind of thought process for the year. For brow categories, I did at one point in time have so many different brow categories. And when I started this year, I also had all these brow categories. So they will remain throughout the rest of the year. And then I'll just take them out completely when we redo inventory overall at the beginning of the year. But with that said, I do have 6 subcategories for brows. For brow gel, I had 10 when I first started tracking in 2021. Last year I had 7. In my mid-year 2024, I am back up to 10. This is something I get in gratis all the time from my benefit partners, my brand partners. So I'm not mad at it. I also use brow gel like no other. Like, it is really all I ever wear in my brows. So I go through one probably every 3 months or so. And most recently, I've had several of them open because I'm trying to figure out what my perfect brow gel is. 24-hour brow setter is my perfect brow gel. I just need to come to terms with the fact that that will be the one and only one I ever need in my collection. But I've had several open over the last several months because I've been trying new things as well that I got in gratis. So this will likely deplete very, very soon. For pencil or pen, I had 11 when I first started tracking this. Last year I had 2. This mid-year check-in, I have 3. I don't think that that's outlandish at all. I'm really happy with that number. For brow conditioners, I had 1 when I first started tracking this, but I've had 0 the rest of the time. So it still stands at 0. I don't think that I need any brow conditioner, if I'm honest with you. My brows are fantastic. These are natural. Like, I just have them shaped by an arch expert. So I don't really need brow growth. Now, knock on wood, right? That category will likely fall off at the beginning of the year when we redo this. For brow highlight, I had 1 when I started tracking in 2021. And then this year, I moved that highlight to eyeshadow sticks because I use that brow highlight as an inner corner highlight or a brow bone highlight, much like that I use like my NYX Marshmallow or Milk eyeshadow sticks. So it made more sense to me to have it with the eyeshadow sticks. So that still exists in my collection, just in another number. So that's at 0. For the pomades, and for pomades, I have like the KVD Super Brow things were part of this brow pomade number for the last 2 years since they've existed in my collection. And therefore I was racking in a number of 10 for brow pomade that never went anywhere. But this year I did move them into the gel eyeliner section of my inventory. So it does look like I've used a whole bunch of brow products, but I've just actually moved them into categories that made more sense to me. But I did add a category this year called powder. And it was very late, actually, in 2023 that I added this. So this is a 2023 category that was added very late in the year. And it is a powder that I've not even used. So I'm going to need to find a friend to give that to that uses brow powder that likes their brows as dark as mine are, because I will never use it. It's not been used, but it's no longer in the package. So I can't like give it away, to like just anybody. A perfect number for me in the brow realm is somewhere between 10 and 12. So I'm not far from a goal here that I have. I'm just always going to have a lot of brow gels. That's just the nature of me and my job. And I think that I don't need the powder at the end of the day, but I do like brow pencils. One of the brow pencils is not I don't love the ABH brow pencil, so that one could probably go, but a couple brow pencils, a couple brow gels, that would be a good day. For the base category, this is where all of my like foundations and primers and all those things are. And I do have like 7 subcategories for base. For primer, in 2021, I had 18. Last year, I had 20. And in this mid-year check-in, I have 21. I do receive a lot of primers in gratis, but I also love primers. So I'm buying new primers quite significantly. Not significantly, I guess, quite often. Might be a good word. For foundations, in 2021, I had 20. In 2023, I had 24, and I currently have 25. Now, that said, I do have 3 in my Project Pan, or 1 in Deca Panning, 2 in Project Pan. One of them in Project Pan will be going soon. It's almost done. I also have several that I think are in my empties, so it's not like I'm not rotating through foundation. I don't think any of these are old foundations. They're just foundations that I continue to use. And because I have so many and so many that I love, truly, there's not one that is in my collection that I don't love. I think there's one that is new to me that I will likely give to my sister. It came to me in gratis, but other than that, there's not one in my collection that I don't love. So this is an okay number as far as I'm concerned. I do think that it would be more healthy of a number if I got it down to somewhere around that 20 realm. And I think by the end of the year, honestly, with what I'm working on in Deck of Panning and Project Pan and all the things, that I could probably get it there, or at least close to. I'm not offended by this number is where I'm going. Concealer, in 2021, I had 15. Last year I had 10, and I currently have 8. I am really excited about this number because if you guys know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you know that concealer is not something that I love. I'm never drawn to concealer. I actually quite hate wearing it on my face. I feel like it does nothing but draw attention to the things that it's supposed to be covering up. Although this year I have found several that, well, between this year and last year, I have found several that I really do like, but there's also a ton out there that I just really don't like. And I think this year I have emptied both of them that have left my collection were through empties. For corrector, I had 3 in 2021. I had 13 in my makeup inventory at the beginning of the year, and I currently have 12. I think the one that left my collection was through declutter. I think that there's some room to improve this category. I definitely don't need that many correctors, but every single one that I had that jumped from 3 to 13 came to me in gratis. Now, I did get rid of several of them that came to me in gratis when they came to me in gratis, because I got every single shade of corrector from LA Girl for their Pro Conceal line, and I didn't need every single shade. But there is several in there that I do wear and utilize, but there's also a couple in there that still have the wrapper on them because they're too dark for me, and I just need to come to terms with that and get rid of them. Give them to somebody else. For powder, I had 15 in 2021. Last year in my makeup inventory, I had 14, and I currently have 12. I do think that there is also room to improve here. I just am not a powder wearer, so I need to make some decisions on what I'm going to keep and what I'm not going to keep. But I also know that there are probably 5 of those, I think, that are minis, so, or very small. So I'm really okay with this number overall, as well as knowing that there is a little bit of improvement room there. But I also just recently got, it would be -3, but I just recently got one in gratis as well that I put into my Shop My Stash that I'm actually kind of excited about. So powder used to be along the same lines as concealer for me. Like, I didn't love it, never wore it. I had dry skin, so I felt like it was just exacerbating the dryness. But I have realized that if you moisturize really well and you have a good moisturized skin, powder isn't your enemy, Donna. Setting in facial spray used to be one of my favorite things to use in my collection because I knew it would lock in the makeup, and for my dry skin, it also kind of helped me feel like my face was hydrated, ? Because they're full of alcohol. But I have found some favorites over the last several years, and I want to just continue to buy those favorites. Like when I think of the Benefit Pore Setter and like MAC Fix Plus. With that said, it is also something that I get in gratis a lot. So in 2021, I had 19. And all of those I had purchased, except for one, I think. When we did our inventory at the beginning of the year, I had 14, so minus 5 from when I first started tracking them. And I am currently at 15, so only plus 1 from the beginning of the year tracking, which is good. I do think that that's a lot. 15, that's a lot. I could give away several and not even care. So I need to make some harder decisions when it comes to next year's declutters the end of year declutters or beginning of next year's declutters, what that looks like, or even just go through and do a little bit more of a hard pressed miscellaneous declutter than what I actually did to get rid of some of those, because some of those could go and I wouldn't even care. The last subcategory I have in here is my support items, and I know that seems weird, but like I have come to terms with the fact that, you know, sometimes my skin looks yellow, sometimes my skin looks green, sometimes my skin looks very neutral and I can wear whatever I want. Sometimes it's light, sometimes it's deep. It depends on the year, right? And I got into a place where I no longer wanted to have a summer shade and a winter shade of a foundation. I just wanted to have one foundation that I can make work for me all year round. So I started purchasing things like a blue foundation mixer, a white foundation mixer, and this is also where I would put like the DeBronzy drops that I have in my collection. So those are the 3 things that are in here, and it has been 3 for quite some time. I didn't start like buying into this until 2022. So I did have 8 of these items when I first started tracking these. At the beginning of the year, my inventory, I had 5 and I currently have 3. I think that the 2 that are now not in this support item section, one was emptied and one was decluttered. Overall, for base, I have 96 items. This is down from the 100 items at the beginning of the year, so not nearly down as much as I would think it would be mid-year, but I also have a very large collection. I think a perfect place for this to be, honestly, is somewhere in the 75 realm. Like, I don't need a ton of concealers. I also don't have a ton of concealers. I don't need as many correctors as I have in here. I could get rid of some of these foundations for sure. And those setting sprays. A lot of those setting sprays could probably go. I could definitely get this down to 75 if I do a more harsh declutter in this area. Okay, the next section is titled Face. And my face category, I have 7 subcategories, but this is where it's going to get a little harried because this is where my blushes, my highlighters, my contours, bronzers, and face palettes live. So there's not going to be as many pictures as there are categories, but we'll walk through it. So first and foremost, this is a rough category for me. This is such a rough category for me because I love blush. I also, during certain times of year, love to purchase bronzers, weirdly. I also really like face palettes. Now, I haven't bought a face palette in a long time. That doesn't mean that I am not opposed to buying a face palette. So there's that. Blushes. In 2021, I had 69 blushes. This included all my blush singles, duos, trios, just blushes. Small trios, not like big palette trios, but all of my blushes. When we did our yearly makeup inventory this year, I had 87 and I currently have 98. This means my blush category has increased by 11 in 6 months. Well, it's August, and it's August as I'm filming this. So in 7 months, it's increased by 11. That is a lot. There is a lot in here that was gratis. So of the blushes that I have brought into my collection this year, 7 of those are gratis. I will also tell you that I have brought in more than 11 this year, but I have decluttered like so many this year. How many did I declutter this year so far? 13. I've decluttered 13 blushes so far this year, and that doesn't include what I'll declutter by the end of the year. I know for sure that there is one more for sure that's being decluttered, but it's currently in a project that I have going. Yeah, I mean, I can't help it. Blush is beautiful. For bronzer, okay, so I did this thing mid-year, which is not something that I typically do. I will typically leave it throughout the year, but I got tired of taking separate pictures of a thing that I use for the same thing in my makeup application. So I combined the bronzer and contour categories as of recently, and I also put all of my contour palettes into my face palette category. So this is gonna look weird because I've done this, but for bronzer slash contour in 2021, I had 30. At the beginning of the year, I had 34. Now, reminder, at the beginning of the year, this was 34 just bronzer. Adding my contour to my bronzer, I ended up with 32. So this is -2 for the whole category. But this was 27. So before I did that. So with that said, I went from 30 bronzers in 2021 to 34 bronzers at the beginning of this year to 27 bronzers currently. I do believe that a good majority of those were decluttered. I don't think any of those came from an empty. That said, going into the next category, which is contour and contour palettes, I had 10 in 2021, 10 at the beginning of the year, and it's now listed as 0 because these moved into the 2 different categories, but it was still 10. So that said, that section has not grown at all or decreased at all since I started tracking my makeup. For highlight, I had 105 in 2021, and I drilled that down. I got it down to only what was most important to me to have in my collection. And when we did makeup inventory for the beginning of this year, I had 90. So I was stoked. I had decreased over, a couple years' time by 15. I was so excited. I'm even more excited to tell you that right now my highlight collection sits at 80, which means in the last 3 years I have depleted my highlight collection by 25. Most of that is through declutter, sure, and that could be considered wasteful, but I give them to very nice, happy homes for the most part. But I will tell you, one of these is a highlighter that I actually finished this year, and it was the proudest moment that I've ever had because highlight is probably the most difficult thing to finish. So really super happy with that highlight number. Do I think that these could, be depleted? Probably. Am I going to do it? Probably not. I mean, this is a hard category for me. For blush palettes, I started 2021 with 10. In this year, at the beginning of the year, I started with 6, and currently I have 4. Declutter, obviously. Highlight palettes, I started 2021 with 14. This year we had 12 at the beginning of the year, and we currently have 11. Again, declutter. And then face palettes, which are, has blush, bronzer, and highlight in some way, shape, or form, a variety of all the things. We had 23 in 2021. We had 16 at the beginning of the year. And we currently have 21. Now, just a reminder, I did put the contour palettes into face palette. I think that's where some of that growth is coming from, but I also do know that I purchased. So the Natasha Denona Berry Pop Cheek Trio was purchased this year. I got a Stila Duo that has a blush and a bronzer on it. That was received in gratis this year. And I purchased the Smashbox Sculpt and Glow face palette this year, which was a mistake. That was not a great purchase. The The rest of the ads there are because of movement and not because of newness this year. So there was only 3 that actually came in this year. 2 of them I purchased. One was in gratis. This category overall had 255 items in it at the beginning of the year, and it currently has 246. So we've decreased in this category by 9. Now, again, I do think that there's probably a healthier amount of products than what I maybe have. This seems like a lot for a lot of you, I'm sure of it, but I really don't know that there's any more curtailing of the inventory that I'm gonna do in these, unless it's like a product here or there. But at the beginning of the year for 2025's inventory, I am going to take the contour and contour palettes section out of this. And it will just be the 6 subcategories and I might actually just put the blush and the highlight palettes all over into face palettes. And then it would just be like 4 total categories because it just makes more sense to me to have it in that way. I don't count like face palettes or blush palettes in with my blushes. So it doesn't make any sense to have them separated either in my inventory. I think that healthy number, I could see this depleting down to, blushes and highlights probably need to come down pretty significantly. But I think that my bronzers are in a good place. I don't think that I have too many. Face palettes is a lot. I mean, overall, when we put those all into one category, I have 37 face palettes, and that seems like a lot. But I'm overall happy that this has depleted over the year. And I've decluttered, like I said, 13 blushes. I've decluttered 16 highlights this year. So like almost 30 of those products have been decluttered by me this year so far. So there's that. Lashes is also a weird thing. There's only 2 subcategories here, but I always have a ton of mascara in my collection because I get mascara in gratis all the time. I have purchased mascara recently, but only because I wasn't sure I was going to get it in gratis, and Benefit came out with that Bad Gal Bang colors and I needed a new blue mascara. So I did purchase that, not recently, but within the last 6 months. So there are portions of this that are new to me because I purchased it. But when I'm looking at the spread of what's new to me and purchased, like there's only that one thing that came new to me in 2024 that was purchased by me. The rest of it is all gratis. So mascara is always going to look outlandishly large, but I get a lot of mascara in gratis. In 2021, I had 39 mascaras. Mascara is something that I also give away to friends and family for free all the time. At the beginning of the year when we did this, I had 28. And I still have 28. So with that said, I am so excited that this has not grown or decreased because I know that there is a lot that has come in gratis. And this could have been so unruly. In addition to mascaras in this category, I have lash primers and serums. And for those, I have 9. Right now, I had 10 at the beginning of the year. This did go down by 1. In 2021, I only had 5, so I hadn't really gotten into a place where I was getting it very often. I do pretty consistently purchase a lash primer. It is Lancome Seals Booster. Benefit also has one now too called Whiplash that I don't mind. I think is really good. I have both open in my collection right now, which seems stupid, to be honest, but they're both really good. So I'm fine with my lash primer and serum sitting where it's at 9. I'm also fine with my mascara sitting where they're at 28. I know that that seems like a lot, but I am also a person who year over year goes through so many mascaras. In my year of end of year empties, I usually have anywhere from 13 to 18 mascaras in my empties for the year because I am also a person who has 4 or 5 open at a time. Right now I have 3 open, and I think I put I think I just recently, within the last couple months, put 2 in empties, and I think this month I also have 2 more in empties because I have usually got several in rotation. I have 4 sitting in here to be used soon. So just recently out of the box, but to be used, and they're all the colored mascaras from Benefit. So I'm really super excited to use those. But I've always got a ton of open mascaras at a time. For eyes, the eyes category has 7 subcategories again. This is where my liquid liners, pencil liners, things like that are, not palettes or anything like that. For liquid liner in 2021, I had 31. At the beginning of the year, I had 17. And currently I have 13. I have been using liquid liner pretty significantly, and it's also another one of those products that I don't think I ever purchase. I think the last one I purchased was this one. This is Danessa Myricks one, but that's the first time I've purchased. That is the only one on my list that was purchased by me. Everything else was brought in through gratis. So, I mean, I'm okay with that. For pencil liners, I had 38 in 2021. At the beginning of the year, I had 43, and I currently have 41. All of my pencil liners are colored, and I use them on my lower lash line. I have a black one, I think 2 black ones and 2 brown ones that I use on my tight line all the time. But other than that, like I use my pencil eyeliners every single day. I have potted liners on here. This is where the KVD Super Brows ended up going because I use them as an eyeliner. So this is going to look quite large, but it went from 2 in 2021 to 4 at the beginning of the year to 12 currently, but it's because I moved those brow products over to the potted liner section. So none of it is new to me this year, but it's all just been moved over. For shadow primer, I had 9 in 2021, 7 at the beginning of the year, and I currently have 6. This is also something I'm not buying very often. I'm really happy with the 6 that I have and not offended by that number at all. For shadow sticks, I had 13 in 2021, 18 at the beginning of the year, and 21 is what I currently have. You know, I think that this could be something that a lot of people think is crazy as far as the number of products. I have 1 that I purchased myself in the last since I have been tracking, and that is the NYX Jumbo Shadow Stick in Black Bean. I use it under like glitters. It is under this like goldy glitter today. Like it's the only one I've purchased since I started tracking. The rest of them have come to me in beauty boxes or through gratis. So I'm totally okay with that number, and I use them all the time. They're just really hard to go through. They're just really hard to use up. For liquid or cream shadow, I had 28 in 2019. I had 28 at the beginning of the year. I currently have 41. I did receive 9 in gratis this year. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 8 that I purchased. So it's about half and half. The purchase to gratis, what I've received in my collection that has come in new from a liquid shadow perspective. Do I need them? Probably not. Do I like them? Yes. Okay, the last thing I have for eyes is glitter or pigments. I had 30 in 2021. I had 17 at the beginning of this year, and I still have 17. This is not an area that will likely grow, to be honest. Overall, my eyes category started with 134 products at the beginning of the year, and I currently have 151. This is an increase of 17. However, when I'm looking through it, like I'm doing a really good job of banging through some of my like liners from a liquid liner and a pencil liner perspective. Outside of that, I'm not unhappy with this number. It's grown by 17. I have 151 products. I'm okay with that. I do have single shadows and palettes in their own sections. I mean, I guess I could put single shadows into eyes. That would make sense. But palettes is kind of like an entity in and of itself, in my humble opinion. And it is also a category that I don't worry a whole heck of a lot about in terms of like decluttering or whether I'm bringing something in new or not. I'm never going to put myself on a low buy for eyeshadow palettes. That's just not going to happen. It is honestly the thing that sparks the most joy for me. So let's start with the singles category. This is a section of my collection that could grow or not grow dependent, or, you know, dissipate dependent on how I'm feeling about certain items at the time. I have two subcategories here. I have the potted singles that I have, and then I have the singles that I house in a magnetic palette. So for contained potted singles, I had 31 in 2021 when I started tracking. Last year I had 27 and I currently have 28. Now I did receive one at FLC and I got one that I purchased recently. And then for single shadows that I house in a magnetic palette, in 2021, when I started tracking, I had 126. At the beginning of the year, when we did our inventory, I had 125. This was -1 from when we first started tracking. And then I have 115. So this is down 10. This includes the one that you'll see in the declutter video coming up, as well as I did a single swatch party video that I'll put up in the cards for you guys. You guys are more than welcome to go watch it. It is a long video, but I decluttered several of my single shadows through that process because they just weren't everything that I wanted them to be. I have only purchased single shadows through Sydney Grace mystery boxes, or not mystery boxes, but Sydney Grace Christmas and July sale. I've only purchased singles through that since 2018, honestly, except for the like palette full of Cleona Cosmetics singles that I purchased in I think 2022. I purchased them in 2023, actually. These aren't sections of my collection that I need to pay specific attention to. They also aren't sections of my collection that I declutter from unless I try and use one of them and find that it's not working in the way that I think it should be working. Like the ones that I've decluttered this year. I don't see this section of my collection growing immensely or being decluttered immensely at all ever. Specifically since I kind of cut the cord on the Sydney Grace Christmas and July sale this year. I did not shop it this year because I feel like everything that I have from Sydney Grace that is in my collection is the stuff that I want. And anything beyond that is not stuff that I actually need. And typically when I shop the Sydney Grace and Christmas and July sale, it is the day that they do the, you know, spend so much money, get so much money, a free product. And every single time I do that, it's nothing but single shadows that I am getting. And I could easily go through Sydney Grace's website and spend, you know, the money on the single shadows that I want from that brand, because I feel like they're one of the best out there, to be honest, and would rather do that than spend the money on the mystery of it all. That said, it pains my heart that I didn't, I'm feeling some kind of FOMO for not having taken advantage of it this year, but I also know that my single shadows are not being touched in my collection very often. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start a build your own palette series here on my channel where I'm going to try to build my own palette month over month, or, you know, seasonally or something, to utilize in my Shop My Stash and all the other things, because my single shadows are just not being touched and they need to be being touched. So, because I have some beautiful single shadows, so I didn't need it this year is where I'm getting at with that. But in addition to that, this is not a section in my inventory that I see movement from. And then the last section that I have in here is my eyeshadow palettes. And eyeshadow palettes is also not a category that I declutter from very often, although I have decluttered via my declutter series or Project Pan, or not Project Pan, Palette Roulette. I have decluttered 26 palettes this year. How crazy is that? That is nuts. I feel like that's nuts. However, with that said, I started the beginning of the year with 204 palettes, and currently mid-year, I have 204 palettes. There is no movement in that number. I did a couple of new things this year, and I went through and counted how many shades I have. So how many pans in each palette? I have 2,780 single pans of eyeshadow in my palettes. In addition to the 143 other shadows. So I have somewhere close to 3,000 single shadows of eyeshadow, single pans of eyeshadow in my collection. And I have 5 that have a pan. Oh, that pan percentage kills me. But honestly, here's the thing. I've never been an eyeshadow project panner, so that is what it is. Okay, overall, my inventory at the beginning of this year was 1,168 items in my collection, and it is currently 1,156, which means I have decreased my entire collection by 12 items, which isn't great. It's also not, it's also not awful, considering the fact that I get gratis, and in April I get a ton of gratis. I brought in so many products in April from my leadership conference that the fact that my collection has decreased by 12, I am actually really pleased with that, honestly, because I really figured it was going to be a lot different than that, which is why the scary face when I first came onto camera, because I was certain we were going to see a mass influx of products. With that said, I have used, I don't know, I think this is 100% updated. I think I did update this 100%. I have used or decluttered 157 items out of my collection. And because it's went down by only 12, that means I have brought in 5 items into my collection through buying the product or through gratis. 112 items have left my collection through declutter, and 45 have left through emptied product. I really don't think that I'm doing a horrible job here. I really feel like I'm coming out of this video feeling a lot better than I did going in. That said, this is the 5th time that I've recorded this, so I was so confused and really didn't know where I sat when I first came into this video. So that said, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the pictures. Please let me know what you guys think of my collection. Reminder to every single one of you here, I am not a PR getter. So I do not get PR. Most everything in my collection is products that I have purchased myself. There is probably, I would say, 1/3 of my collection that is coming in through gratis. And I work in the beauty industry, so it is just something, it's a perk of working my job. But there's not much in here that isn't getting used. There's not much in here that isn't being rotated through on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. And I have put projects in place to start trying to filter out of my collection some of those old things or things that I know that I won't use. I'm really pretty happy with where my inventory sits right now, and I do think that I can end this year in a really strong place as far as like growth or not of my collection. With that said, I've had, great years where I have went from 1 year having 1,244 items and the next year in inventory having 1,096. I don't think, so a huge declutter had happened in that year. I don't think that that is something that I will ever do again, because from that point forward, I just made smarter decisions, I feel like, in my purchasing for makeup. I truly try to be very, very conscious about what I'm spending, up to and including waiting for months to purchase a blush that I've had my eye on to see if I still had my eye on it months later instead of making those impulse purchases, because when you make impulse purchases, you end up with things like this, which is the blush that is currently in my deck of penning that I know is going to go as soon as I'm done filming deck of penning, because that was a stupid makeup purchase decision. I try not to make those impulse decisions anymore. That said, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to my channel. I would love to welcome you in. I do have a giveaway coming very soon because my birthday is in a couple of weeks, and I do a giveaway every year for my birthday gift back to you. And I hope that you'll want to be subscribed so you can take part in it. I also hope that you just want to subscribe because you really enjoyed being here today. I hope that you guys are all doing well. I hope that you are all safe and healthy and getting along as best you can. I hope that you are all loving each other, being kind humans, and living your best life. And until next time, bye friends.